ever since the new bit of Hexen Circle lore has been dropped on us from the Windbloom Festival, I think there's a very important question that's been on everybody's mind. Obviously, we had a huge lore drop from Alice about the Hexen Circle and how they operate, so I'm sure everybody's wondering, who is Klee's dad anyway? Because in the Hexen Circle lore drop, Alice tells us that members of the Hexen Circle, once they find a partner or get married, they leave the Hexen Circle to pursue their own independent life from the witches' coven. So, a big question I think that's been on everybody's mind is, who's Klee's dad? Does that mean Alice is no longer a member of the Hexen Circle? Is Klee's dad dead? I think that's a big question that's been on everybody's mind since the launch of this new lore drop. Now, a few of these questions we can answer quite easily, actually. I have Klee, so it's quite easy for me.
My mom and dad are the famousest travelers in Tibet. Mom writes the Tibet travel guide, so all the restaurants and hotels in the whole world care what she thinks about them.
As you can see from Klee's profile story dialogue, Klee, as far as Klee's aware, she has two parents, two alive parents. Also, if we look in her character story 5, it does say that her parents left. So it says in Klee's character story that her parents left to travel somewhere dangerous and far away. Again, parents. Her character profile stories focus a lot on Alice in particular. It's all about Alice. There's very, very small details about who Klee's dad is. It's always referring to Alice. So, it begs the question, who is her dad? Can we work it out from the clues available to us? I think, yes, there is enough clues in the game to work out or have an idea of who Klee's dad might be. Now, one thing we know about Klee is that she's a member of the Knights of Favonius, and she is also a child. She is a child who is a member of the Knights of Favonius, not even an acting member like the Traveller is, but a full-blown member of the Knights, which is a bit questionable if you think about it. Who lets a child be a member of the Knights? Also, Alice is described as being a well-explored and experienced adventurer. Why hasn't Klee grown up with the Adventurers Guild like Bennett did? In Bennett's backstory, we're told that Bennett was found as a child and was raised by the Adventurers Guild. If Alice is an avid adventurer, why is Klee also not raised in the Adventurers Guild? Why is Klee brought up with the Knights of Favonius? I think you know where I'm getting with this. The obvious answer is Klee is part of the Knights of Favonius because her father is a member of the Knights of Favonius. And because her father is a member of the Knights of Favonius, she has been brought up around the Knights, spent a lot of time with the Knights, and the fact that she's a very young Knight makes more sense. It makes even more sense that she's a member of the Knights of Favonius if her dad, for example, ran it. Don't you think? Yes, I am suggesting Klee's dad is Varka, the head of the Knights of Favonius. I'll let you take that in for a moment. But this might seem like a big stretch for some of you, but I don't think it is at all. Both Alice and Varka have been travelling outside of Mondstadt since the beginning of the game. We're told Varka went on a great expedition. In Klee's stories, we're told, Klee tells us that her mum and dad are the most famous travellers in Tibet. both Alice and Varka are quite famous. Technically, Varka is not an adventurer, but I mean, he calls them travelers. But I think it makes sense that because Varka and Alice have been traveling, that they're traveling together. Now, I did do some research on the wiki, because a lot of Alice's stuff has been released in events, so it's very hard to look up stuff about Alice in the game unless you're reading the travel guide, and if Alice travels a lot anyway. I think, like, it says that Alice has been away from like 3 years from the wiki. I feel like because Alice writes the travel guide, she could be away and Klee be at home with her dad, the guy who runs the nights, during those 3 years, because Sparkler is meant to have left like half a year ago. Obviously, the game has traversed time a little bit since the beginning of the launch, so technically he's been away for 2.5 years, and Alice has been away for 3.5 years, and Klee doesn't age because she's an elf, I guess. Everybody escapes the marching of time in this game. But yeah, I don't think it's a big stretch to assume that Varka and Alice are together, because they're both absent, they're both in Mondstadt. Klee being the child of Varka makes it make sense that she's a knight, that she lives with the knights, that she's grown up with the knights, because as far as we know, Alice is not a knight. And why would she put Klee within the safekeepings of the knights, even though I know she's meant to look after Albedo, who's, son of her friend? I feel like she would be more incentivized to raise Klee with the knights if her partner Varkner was also a knight. And I think maybe Albedo was also encouraged to join the knights. I've not actually read his backstory, so I might be talking a load of rubbish here, because of Alice's connection to Varkner. I think that makes sense. Obviously, we won't find out. Maybe we'll never find out who Klee's dad is. But I think the fact that nothing has been said about who Klee's dad is because they're waiting for a big reveal. And I wouldn't be too surprised if Varkner and Alice are quite similar to Kiana's parents in Honkai 3rd. I wouldn't be surprised if they're like expies of them, because Klee's blonde. I could imagine like a grown up version of Klee looking a bit like Kiana. I know people say the god from the beginning of the game is a Kiana expi, but there's no reason that she can't have multiple. Obviously, people are hoping that Miss Pink Elf is going to be Alice, which makes a lot of sense. But I do feel like it's a possibility. I can't remember what Kiana's mother's called, or her dad, but I reckon that's what Varkner and Alice are going to be like, that sort of pairing. Alice might be, I can't, what is it? But yeah, that's my thought. I think it makes sense. I think it makes sense from everything we know about Klee's parents in game. Obviously, there's probably a bunch of stuff I might have missed from past events that I've never taken part in. This recent one is the most lore I've ever got on Alice. But from Klee's stories, from what we know of Alice, and from what we know of Varka, I think it makes sense. What do you guys think? Do you think Varka is Klee's dad? Why do you think that Klee is a member of the Knights of Favonius if she doesn't have a parent who's also a member? I mean, it's quite possible that Varka isn't her dad, and a character we haven't met yet, maybe a captain of the Knights of Favonius, is her dad. That is also a possibility, but either Varka or unknown Favonius Knight Captain is the two contenders. There are 10 captains of the Knights of Favonius, Kaya obviously being one. I think Albedo's one, Eula is one, if anyone else playable is one. But that leaves multiple unknown characters who could also be Klee's dad. But I have Varka as the favourite. My personal favourite that he is Klee's dad. Because there's so much Hexian Circle related stuff in the night that's a little bit suspicious. But it would make sense if Alice and Barker were together. And from the information I think we've got from like Alice previously, she's going somewhere dangerous, and I think Wagner is meant to be near Natlan or Fontaine, which are dangerous areas. I think they'll be together, and I suspect when we eventually meet Varka, we might also meet Alice or get another Alice related lore drop. I wouldn't be surprised. Let me know what you guys think. Do you agree with me? Who do you think is Klee's dad? What do you think is Alice's like relationship thing like? Because she says in the Hexian Circle lore drop that once they get married they leave, and she clearly is still running the thing. She might be the only member who's like active in it still, from what it sounds like, or she is officially left and still like maintains all their stuff. Who knows? But it's fun to think about. Let me know what you think. Comment down below. Like this video if you want to see more speculation stuff like this. And subscribe if you're not. I'll see you all in the next video. Goodbye!